Hey folks, this is Abel James, and welcome to Fat Burning Man, where we help you look, feel, and perform at your best. Have you ever thought about selling everything and traveling the world? We're here today with former investigator for the FDA and military intelligence officer turned modern nomad. His name is Mr. Gary Collins. We both abandoned the American dream to live off the grid several years ago. And if you feel overwhelmed by bills, debt, or even social media, this episode is for you. And as always, Gary's been on the show before. If you'd like to hear us talk about health, what to eat, how to live, be sure to listen to the past episode with Gary at fatburningman.com. Just put Gary Collins into the search bar. It should come right up. But anyway, this episode gets down and dirty, and it's always no holds barred when Gary comes on the show. So I hope you enjoy it. Now, before we get there, here's a note that just came in from Scott. He says, Abel, a big thanks to you and your podcast guests for all the amazing info and encouragement. After 4 decades of eating literally whatever I wanted, including mostly massive quantities of processed carbs and obscene amounts of sugar, I finally started to do something about it a few days after my 40th birthday. By God's mercy, my body had not yet succumbed to diabetes or obesity, but regular bouts with fatigue, IBS, and hemorrhoids. Shirtless swimming pics from my birthday weekend were just the catalyst I needed to get serious about my diet. 6 weeks in, I probably listened to 60 plus episodes on 1.5x speed, by the way, during my daily or twice daily half-hour walks, and I've been eating all real food for the first time in my life and watching the bad cravings literally fade into nothingness. Hemorrhoids have disappeared, IBS is non-existent, energy is up, and I'm down almost 30 pounds, and looking forward to 5 or 10 more in the coming weeks. Thanks for helping keep me motivated. Scott, man, 60 plus episodes. What do I sound like at 1.5x speed? I've always wondered that, actually. Maybe I should check it out. I'm sure I'd be horrified. I don't want to sound like a chipmunk. But anyway, Scott, congratulations. You're experiencing a lot of things that, I kind of experienced when I first cleaned up my nutrition plan, and Allison as well, because we kind of did it around the same time together. And it's like all of these issues that you thought were just yours or that your doctor said were yours forever start to resolve. And it's always fascinating to see what people can come back from, but it's startling in some cases. So congratulations on certainly all of the things that have happened, especially besides the weight loss. A lot of times it's easy for us to get caught up in the numbers, and it's something that a lot of times it's easy to compare one number to another, but it's not about the numbers ever or at all. It's really all about how you feel and how your health is. So congratulations on really making that work. It sounds like you've learned a lot already, and you're definitely putting it into action. So kudos to you. So if you're listening and you've dropped fat, improved your health following the wild diet, or if you've just listened to the Fat Burning Man show, learned a couple of things and improved your life, I'd love to hear about it. The easiest way to get in touch is to sign up for my newsletter at fatburningman.com. And then I'll send you an email with some free goodies in it. Just reply to that. And then I try to read every single one, and I respond to as many as I can. And who knows, I might read a note from you on the show. And actually, from some of these notes that I've read on this show in the past, I've gone on to meet these people in real life, and it's so cool. Sometimes just running into each other at the grocery store. You never know where Allison and I might end up. I've had people. We were in California one time, and this woman came up to us, and she's like, Abel James, what are you doing in my Trader Joe's? But who knows? I might show up in your grocery store sometime soon. But Scott, thanks again for writing in. Okay, so over the past year and change, you may have heard about this, you may not have, but Allison, my wife, and I have been secretly recording over 400 360 and virtual reality music videos, virtual adventure tours, and we even created our new health company to help support all of this, which is called Wild Superfoods. So that means that we can essentially, with Wild Superfoods, hopefully anyway, pay the bills or at least break even by being our own sponsor and create as much independent content as we can for you folks with a message that's as clear and honest as we can be and uncompromised by outside sponsors and corporate overlords. So look forward to hundreds of 360 virtual tours, virtual reality music videos with spatial audio, 360 and VR cooking videos, gear reviews, and much, much more. So most of that stuff, especially the non-health related stuff, will be found, and you can already find a lot of it at abeljames.com. That's my main blog and website. So you can check that out, abeljames.com. And then for the health related stuff, and certainly as it relates to this show, that's always going to be at fatburningman.com. So every morning you can watch a new video from Allison and myself. We've already posted more than 100. A lot of them are really wacky. I hope you like it. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And so as far as supporting this show goes and our other content, please check out our programs for purchase, which are we have cooking classes, we have a lot of nutrition video courses, a lot of information about fitness. That's all at fatburningman.com. If you'd like to support this show, please consider purchasing one of our programs or joining the Fat Burning Tribe, which is our group coaching community. You can find that at fatburningtribe.com. Or if you live in the U.S., please check out our new company of our favorite health supplements that we've been taking for many years ourselves, and our family has too. It's a small family company. We're kind of starting small and simple. We appreciate you bearing with us, but it's going really well so far. Be sure to check out Future Greens. That's probably my favorite. You can find all that at wildsuperfoods.com. And right now we can only ship to the U.S. Hopefully we'll be able to bring it to you folks internationally soon. All right, enough of that. On to the show with Gary. You're about to learn why it's important to be picky about the health supplements you take, how to live the 21st century nomadic off-the-grid lifestyle, how to become a millionaire, technically, or using some kind of crazy math, even if we never make more than minimum wage. I know it sounds crazy, but Gary has a very unique perspective on all of this. He's unplugged for a while. He lives a different lifestyle than most people and has a lot to share, a lot that we all can learn from. And finally, you'll learn how to become more self-reliant in an increasingly connected world. All right, let's go hang out with Gary. This episode is brought to you by Wild Superfoods. Let's start with a quick question. Do health supplements really work? After testing many hundreds of tonics, supplements, powders, and potions over the past 7+ years, my wife Allison and I have found very few companies that we actually trust. Massive, faceless corporations seem to be running the show, often prioritizing profits well above our collective health. Many supplements in stores and online are of extremely low quality, are ridiculously overpriced, and some don't even contain the active ingredient they're supposed to be selling. We all deserve much better. That's why my wife Allison and I created Wild Superfoods. We're a small family business, and we take our own products daily because we think they're the best out there. Our Ultimate Daily Bundle provides you with a complete supplement regimen that you can trust to deliver maximum health benefits without the guesswork. Whether you're looking for Mega Omegas, Vitamin D Stack, Probiotic Spheres, or Future Greens, our cutting-edge supplements have you covered. And as a listener of Fat Burning Man, you can save over $80 on a one-time purchase or save over $128 when you select Subscribe and Save. All you have to do is head on over to wildsuperfoods.com. You can type it into your address bar right now to order your very own health-boosting goodies for a rocking listener discount for a limited time. And as always, if you don't love any of our products from Wild Superfoods, then you get your money back. So one more time, all you have to do to check it out is visit wildsuperfoods.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you there. All right, folks, returning to the show this week is Mr. Gary Collins. Gary has a unique and fascinating background in military intelligence and as a special agent for the U.S. State Department Diplomatic Security Service, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and U.S. Food and Drug Administration. These days, he teaches people like you and me to break free of conventional wisdom to practice true health, freedom, and self-reliance. Gary, thanks so much for joining us again on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Abel. I really appreciate it.
So we were getting into it a little bit too much, I think, before this interview because I'm already all warmed up, ready to, I guess, light that fire. But before we get into the crazier stuff, let's go back in time a little bit to when you had a mortgage, you had a kind of normal life. I'm using air quotes here. Yet the American dream, even if it was realized, things weren't hunky-dory, were they?
No. And I think like most Americans, you don't really know it at the time necessarily.
Right.
I grew up poor. I grew up as a poor kid in the middle of nowhere, grew up in a trailer. I was taught, work hard, go to college, get a degree. I was the first kid to get a degree in my family.
Wow.
And got a master's degree while I was in the military. And then went into doing the grind. I'd been working since I was 13. So that's what I knew. And everything was perpetuated, be the ultimate consumer, keep making more money so you can spend more money. And through traveling around the world in the government and moving around the country, at one point in my life, later on than you, unfortunately, I wish I would have learned this stuff a lot younger. And, I had a mortgage. I just bought over $500,000 tract house in Southern California, which is a pile of junk, basically, that you have to dump another 150 grand in and fix up. And luckily I'd had multiple properties and stuff though, but still huge mortgage for me. I'm in the government grinding away, wondering what the heck I've done wrong in my life at this point. I've surrounded myself with things I do not need that are basically emotionally sucking me dry is the best way to put it. And worrying about mortgage, bills, feeding the beast, buying things I don't need. I mean, I remember throwing away clothes that I went, why did I buy this? I mean, as a guy, I had clothes that were yeah, I had like 6 suits. And don't get me wrong, I had to wear suits in the government and everything. But, I was sitting there and I went, what? Things have to change. And I think I was pretty close to, I don't know, it's a weird way to put it. I've never shared in depth with this, so you're lucky, Abel. But I think I was pretty close to an emotional breakdown.
Sure.
I think I was about to snap. And being in the government and dealing with all the high pressure and everything, I think I just had enough. Mm-hmm. And I started realizing that there has to be a better way. The best way to put it, and I know we talked about this, is we're living in someone else's reality.
Yes.
Is the best way to put it. This is not the life I designed for me. This is the life that was designed by an outlying force that I didn't have control of. I was born into this. And I'm not going to cry because we live in the United States. I've traveled in the worst places of the world you ever want to go.
Right.
We are incredibly, incredibly fortunate. But even with that, it's still not good, is the sad part.
Right.
But again, I don't want to whine about it. But I went to other countries where people were destitute, who are far happier than us.
Oh, yeah.
Far happier. And we're making fun of them. Oh, go look at them. They live in a little hut and they have family. They play. They have free time. They enjoy community. And you just look at that. And I think that's what sunk in for me. Mm-hmm. So I decided to make a change. And I said, screw it. This is it. I'm done. And I just kind of went through a year or two of physical issues and mental issues as far as trying to get my act together, figuring out where I needed to go. Mm-hmm. And I just basically sold everything. I had sold the house at a loss, pretty big loss. I probably lost close to $250,000 cash savings. So I had to recover from that. Yeah. Went into the health business and started my own business and got my spine fused and had wrist surgery. And I had a couple other surgeries. I was broken. I mean, my body was shot. Yeah. And relearning everything and moved into a 475 square foot cottage that I rented I planned to rent it for 2 years. I ended up renting it for almost 5 years, bought a travel trailer, moved into a travel trailer. After, in between that, started a company, was teaching. I was a college professor. I was running a health company. I was doing everything I could to try and break out of the system, is the best way to put it, and do things on my own. But I think a misconception is that you can just wake up one day and just reboot, and it doesn't work that way. This took me, I started this almost a decade ago.
Right.
So it's been a grind, but I wouldn't take one bit of it back.
Absolutely. And our stories are quite similar. I guess I'm still kind of a type A, but much more zen about it than I used to be, because it was always like, I grew up in a place where we had serious money struggles, middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, and I just didn't want to be pumping gas for the rest of my life. I didn't want to turn into a townie. I was talking to my cousin about this last month, how we just like didn't realize it until now. He just turned 40, but we're just like, wow, we for our whole lives have kind of been trying to succeed and achieve and do all of these things just to not be a townie. And he lives 5 minutes from where he grew up very happily now, but has a totally different perspective about it, because he's not really like chained to the machine like he used to be. And for me, it's like when I finally, using air quotes again, achieved the American dream, which is like this unspoken thing, or sometimes spoken, where you're supposed to have a house and a nice car and a nice mortgage and a nice job and all of these predictable things. Yet, if you do that, especially if in your early 20s, but even if you're in your 30s, like for the most part, most people are not in control of their own destiny, because they are working for somebody else, or they're working for, ultimately, the man or the system. And the entire monetary system is not favorable to the people who are trying to move up, right? Like, that's what you start to realize, especially once you get your mortgage. You're like, wait a second. So anyway, to skip ahead a little bit, this is several years ago now. We sold the car, the house, donated like most of our possessions, and so had basically nothing, and started traveling around the world on very little. Lived out of a travel trailer for a while, kind of like worked our ways back up the bootstrapping way, though. And it was very conducive to building your own business at the same time, to kind of separating yourself, because you realize if you don't have that gigantic mortgage, if you don't have that big flashy car or whatever it is, if you don't have all these bills, then finally you can wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful thing, isn't it?
I think that's what happened with me too, as I was going through this transition of trying to figure it out. I knew that at least the start was basically kind of going back to basics. Mm-hmm. I kind of remembered, same thing. I grew up in a small town, and my whole goal, and me and my friends, same thing, was to get out of that small town and not live the townie life. Mm-hmm. We did not want that. So it pushed us out, which was good. But I still have friends that grew up in my hometown that are tremendously happy.
Yeah, exactly. That was all in our heads.
Yeah, exactly. They achieved what their dream was, and there's nothing wrong with it. I look at it, and everyone has their own path. And it's kind of what I teach in some of my writings, and what I did, now I live off the grid, and I'm in my off the grid house, and I live in my travel trailer half the year, and I travel around, but I talk about purpose. The first thing you have to realize in your life is, what is your purpose? What are you striving for? What is going to make you happy, and how do you get there? Mm-hmm. And then you have to kind of self-internalize and go, okay, these things that will make me happy, how do I pursue them without worrying about what other people think?
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about social media, and I think, I ditched it. I don't use it for the business hardly. I use little bits and pieces here and there, but not really. I do not interact in Facebook. I do not have a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. I don't do any of that. And it's because I believe that people look at social media as a way for instant self-gratification and increasing it even more than we have in this society today. It's kind of bed into it even more and more. Because does anyone ever put on social media, anything beyond getting attention to themselves? It's almost like that 15 minutes of fame addiction. And now you have this instant access to millions of people. And when you think of it in a psychological kind of perspective, it's a sickness. It really is. And the more you feed into it, the sicker you get. And detaching from that and understanding that what you need to do, again, is finding your purpose. So what is your purpose? Is it helping people? Is it being a musician? Is it being a poet? Is it working for a company that has beliefs that you believe in and is a community at the same time? Is it traveling around the world, sharing your experiences? It takes on so many different avenues, but humans are creative. That's the thing, is we are wired to create. We're very curious. And I think today that's almost been kind of sucked out of us a little bit.
Definitely.
It's like, put you on this consumer, kind of path, work yourself to death, be on 3 to 5 medications, be about 50 to 100 pounds overweight, have multiple health conditions, don't feel good, and then you retire and then you die, basically.
We all have the same story unless we break out of it.
And to me, and some people go, well, I like my job. I like my life. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. If that works for you, I'm not here to talk you out of it.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people have realized that what we've been taught isn't necessarily the answer.
Yeah. We don't, especially considering once you start your own business or work for yourself, which I've been doing on and off my whole life as a performer and musician, you start to realize that there are two factors at play here. There's the let's make more money, and there's the let's spend less money. And that one never really gets talked about unless it's like saving a few cents on gas or like saving a few cents on food or like saving a few cents in other places. But it's like, no. What is the biggest expenditure of cash or debt that most people are going to be experiencing in their lifetimes? It's either going to be a house or a car for the most part. And you have the option of not having those things too, for the most part. Like, I don't want to speak in generalizations, but I'll just give an example. When I graduated from Dartmouth, I had too many loans. I did not like that. I almost had to drop out because they thought that I should pay more money than I could. And so I had to take on these really nasty loans with high interest to just stay. Anyway, so I graduated with this debt, wanted to pay it off as quickly as possible. And so I took a job in D.C., even though I did not want to live there. I did not want to live in the city. I wanted to go on an adventure and drive around the country and figure out what life is all about, right? But nope, I'm going to pay my debt to society. I'm going to work real hard and dig down, dig deep, become a consultant, and do all these things that everyone else does. After doing that for a little while, well, let's say this. I did not have a car on purpose. I couldn't afford it even before that in college, but I did not get one in D.C. I walked to work, and I found a place to live that was less than $1,000 a month, which was like,
whoa,
which was great. This is 10 years ago, and like less than $1,000 a month, except I lived with an old man right next to his kitchen. And I was single at the time, so it became very awkward. Yet I lived there for like a year and a half until I got enough money to pay down all my debt. I was working 3 jobs, moonlighting, all this stuff, and finally got there. And once I achieved that American dream or whatever and got the house and got the debt, I was at the sickest I had ever been.
Yep.
The sickest and mentally the most unlike myself that I had ever been in my life. But like you said, I didn't even realize that it was happening, really. I thought that I was just becoming an adult. This is what happens to it. You know, when I gained the 30, 40 pounds that everyone or most people gain over the course of their 20s and 30s, or once they enter the workforce, everyone's just like, yep, that's what happens. You know, it's like the freshman 15, except you like join the workforce and it's a little bit more because you're getting older now. It's like, but I'm 22.
Yeah. What happened?
I'm supposed to be entering like the next 10, 15 years are supposed to be my athletic prime, right? Like I'm supposed to be Kobe Bryant or whatever for the next 10, 15 years. Yet there's a completely different narrative that most people are following now, and it's only gotten worse, right? It's like the people who are following me have more debt, they have more expensive housing, and more expensive car, more expensive most things except for technology, except for the things that turn you into a lifelong consumer. And since I'm already ranting, I might just keep going because when it comes to technology, I remember getting one of the first iPhones like 10 years ago. 10 plus probably at this point, but basically the same device, except you could use that one to do things. The one that we have now uses you. It bleeps and bloops at you all the time. It steals your attention. And if you really ask yourself, like, what are we supposed to be doing with technology? Is more technology, is bigger screens, is screens in your face, is all this stuff better? Or is it just taking more of your attention? And if it's taking your attention, what is it giving you back? Obviously, we're doing this over technology. It's a double-edged sword. It can be used for good. But now more than ever, it's being co-opted by forces that want to turn all of us into lifelong consumers. Even Apple is taking away all of the ports, the USB ports, the line-in jack, the headphone jack, such that all of these devices can no longer be used to create anything. All you can do is watch Netflix binges and go on Instagram and take pictures of yourself. And that is not progress.
No. And I'm like you, I use technology as a tool. And I've been an Apple user forever. I grew up, I'm old enough that I remember the first Apple IIe's, or were they 2C's or one, the first Apples that ended up in the schools, and I was in high school at the time.
Okay.
And we had the Selectric 3 typewriters, the IBM typewriters that we learned typing. God, I'm old. Holy God. But we learned typing. Typing was mandatory for us pretty much.
Yep.
And next to it was the computer lab right on the other side of the aisle. And I remember using it. I used them working through college. My girlfriend had one. My roommate had one. And then I got away. I used PCs for a while. And it was always a tool, Mm-hmm. And now you're right. Everything we use is about data mining. It's about grabbing your information. And I actually just answered a question about this. A guy asked me what I did for protecting my information and how I use the internet far as encryption and all that. I go, dude, I don't use it that way to where I worry. And if the government wants your information or any hacker really wants it, you're screwed.
It's there. Yeah,
it's there. And, I go, I don't use the cloud and, because I don't like storing stuff out in the, right when Apple said, ours is highest encryption ever, it got hacked. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were running their mouth and it got hacked like the week later. And I went, that's why my stuff's not on the cloud.
Of course. Yeah.
And I never used my real date of birth and information on social media. And people are all, what? And I went, why? Why would I do that? It's all there. I mean, people are looking to steal, especially companies. And I loved the interviews with Zuckerberg in front of Congress, and he's all, we never sell information. I'm all, you have been selling everyone's information from day one.
Let me just say,
everyone knows it.
I do use Facebook. I feel like it's, to some degree a necessary evil or what have you, but also I do get to connect with a lot of people. But let me just say, if you have been getting advertising and you're a follower of me on Facebook, they have literally bought you because you liked me, my page, and like anyone who wants to take me down can buy you to advertise to you, whether it's on Facebook, Google, Instagram, almost anywhere else. They have been buying the people who follow me, and it drives me insane because like these days, I've been talking to quite a few creators about this the past, 4 years or so. It seems like things have changed in that way. Whereas it used to be you were growing a following, hopefully, growing a community.
Trying.
Right?
Yeah.
And trying, yeah. And then everyone started monetizing at the same time, and all the marketers came in and started buying up people's like personalities and habits, which is really difficult to understand and conceptualize and explain. But you are Facebook's basically product to be sold. Your personality, your habits, the things that you shop for are those habits are bought and then kind of like sold around the internet to other people who can influence you in very invisible ways, such that when you log on to Facebook, for example, you'll see a post from somebody who paid for it to be there, yet you don't know that. Same thing with Google. Basically, the whole internet turned into that, where it looks like it's your internet, but it's the internet that's like, if you ever saw Minority Report when he's walking down that hallway, you probably know what I'm talking about. And all these advertisements, I think they scan his irises or something like that. They know that it's him, and they're just like, as he's walking by these ads, they're talking to him. And it's like that on the internet right now, except it changed kind of slowly and gradually. And so most people don't realize that. But that is so dangerous if you're looking for the truth.
Well, and that's for them, that's where AI came in,
right.
Is they were looking at artificial intelligence in order to create algorithms in order to mass advertise to you. It's basically targeting humans.
Yeah.
And with that, science fiction, it's funny you bring up Minority Report, is science fiction usually is based upon some fact.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the novels, even the old novels. I mean, think of George Orwell in 1984.
Yeah.
These were all precursors to where these authors thought the world was going.
Brave New
And
World.
we're seeing the power of AI today. And I 100% agree with you. I used to think that health was our biggest kind of the elephant in the room that no one wanted to talk about and fix, because it's actually fairly easy to fix. Our health problem in this country is pretty straightforward, but no politician has ever solved the problem. They create a problem and then pitch you the solution mm-hmm. in order to generate more money. And I know, I've had people tell me I'm a tin hat. I go, guys, I spent half my life deep in the federal government.
Right.
You know, I've seen things that no one else will see. I've dealt with people. I've heard conversations. Trust me on this one. Government's not there to fix your problem. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way where I think we should have an uprising
right.
and burn down the cap. It's more of, once you recognize that, then you can interact correctly and choose your path, right? As long as you know that's the end game.
I was really, in a depressed state thinking about certain things, like the state of the world for a while. Like how could humans be in such dire straits right now? How could we be so unhealthy, so hooked on pharmaceuticals and opioids and all these various things? And then I'm just like, wait a second. Is it more likely that we're all independently making these decisions to be miserable and controlled, or is it more likely that it's kind of set up so that our best intentions are co-opted by a system that turns us into that story of being 30 to 50 pounds overweight on 3 to 6 pharmaceutical drugs and working this job with this mortgage and that sort of thing? Are we all being pulled in that direction? It seems so.
Well, yeah, and think about it. I've always said this. Healthy people do not make drug and pharmaceutical and the medical machine any money.
That's right.
Healthy people are very cheap in the essence. Mm-hmm. In understanding that you're actually, by being unhealthy, you're helping feeding the beast. I mean, you're making these multi-billion-dollar companies by being unhealthy. Once you fix your health, well, now you take the money away from them and you take the power. And I've always said too that, especially in being an entrepreneur in business, because people ask me about, now I'm primarily an author, but I still consider myself an entrepreneur. And they ask me about that. Yeah. And they always go, where do I start, Gary? And I go, you need to start with your health.
Yeah.
And they go, how's that going to make me create a business? I go, by regaining your health, you're taking back that big chunk of power that society, the system has over you right now. Mm-hmm. You start there. You're taking a big portion back. Once you're in control of your health, not only that, but it makes you, you get better cognitive function. Mm-hmm. You make better decisions. You're more as far as better relationships. You communicate better. You're happier. What's the best cure for depression? Going out and exercising and eating healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
it's pretty simple.
So you start there and you kind of weave those practices in too. So the discipline that it takes to be healthy makes you more disciplined in your business ventures, in your life, because it's the hardest thing to do. More independent, because how are you going to, because I get the question, Gary, I want to live off the grid. I want to do this. I want to live more remotely. And I go, again, how healthy are you? And they go, well, I could lose 50 pounds and this. And I go, how in the world are you going to live remotely when you can't be more than 5 miles away from the nearest hospital?
Right.
You can't climb a hill. You got to start there. And getting back into the technology, technology's kind of run into the big time into the health world, and it's getting kind of scary now. Because when you think of the human organism and aging is something that I look at humans as big computers, and people hate this analogy. Yeah. Especially some physicists and stuff. They go, humans are not computers. I go, yeah, but our DNA is wired pretty close to. Though. Yeah, it's programmed. Instead of zeros and O's, you have AC and or ATGC. I mean, so it's close. And with that, though, we're manipulating things and understanding that, too, that people are going, well, I don't need to take care of myself. Technology's going to fix it.
Right.
Yes and no. And I'm not going to put all of my, faith in a system that has not treated me nicely in a way.
No.
Yeah, why would I go and say they're going to fix all my problems? It's that self-reliance attitude, the attitude I've taken. It's all on you. Mm-hmm. Everything you're going to do, it's on you. Don't blame other people. Don't whine and cry about it. I've done plenty of that myself, and blame everyone else. It's on you. And you need to educate yourself, figure out what you want to do. And again, coming back to health. Because people always want me to fix them. Right. And can't fix you. You need to learn about your own body. You need to have the knowledge of how your body works. And they're all, you mean I got to learn? Well, yeah, it's your body. Mm-hmm. Why would you not want to know the basics of the physiology of the greatest, invention that we know of, which is the human organism right now?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. All we know right now is our little microcosm.
Yeah.
But in our little microcosm, we're the most complicated thing within it.
Well, all right, just a hypothetical question or a rhetorical question. What is the placebo effect? We know that it's big. We know that like 30 to 50% of the time, magic happens. Depending on what you think, like if you think it's going to work, it'll work 30 to 50% of the time. That sounds like a pretty dang good technology to me, if you wanted to describe it that way. But what it necessitates is you taking it on yourself, like you said, making it your responsibility to, okay, so I'm feeling a little pain in my kidneys. What do I do about that? Well, if you look at, I've been doing Qigong exercises almost every morning for many years now. And the way of thinking, and I'm oversimplifying, but like basically Qi and energy is something that I consider it as almost harnessing the placebo effect. So if you have an intention in your mind and you scan your body, certain things might be hurting or acting up or what have you. And if you learn how to meditate, you learn how your body works, whether it's physiology, whether it's going to the chiropractor or learning where the trigger points are, doing self-massage or active release technique. There are so many different things that you can do. One of the reasons it's so important to get out there and move your body is because you learn. Physical education is what it used to be called in school. They took it out of schools, but it's education about your own body, how to use it, how to hike up that hill, how to go bouldering. You find all these new little fun things to do. I'm sure you living in the boondocks, not that it's new to you, but like now that you live there and have the freedom to experiment, you find all these new hobbies, new ways of using your body to explore the world. And this is something that, like you said, you can't really do, or it's a lot more difficult if you're sick or overweight or shackled to debt or some job or a lot of commitments.
Well, I call it the overwhelming effect now. We are so bombarded, we have this survival mechanism, right? So we learn from things that usually go wrong. Yeah. You usually don't learn the big lessons when things are going right. So you're out, a typical one would be you're out hunting as a hunter-gatherer a million years ago. You cross another predator that can eat you. Mm-hmm. Well, if you screw up, it will eat you. That is the lesson. You know, yeah. And if you're fat and overweight and you're just a tasty, slow moving organism for another organism to eat.
Yeah.
So obviously you would take these lessons in and the stresses would be different, right? Because you'd be dealing with starvation. Still you'd have physical ailments, broken bones, family, community, relationships. There would still be these pieces, but today it's a bunch of little things. They all stack up, right? Mm-hmm. So next thing you know, you're sitting in traffic. Next thing you know, you're eating out of the vending machine. Next thing you know, you're a couple $100,000 in debt. Next thing you know, and it's all these trivial things start to stack up. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's degrading your health as well. But that's kind of how we live today is they keep stacking up. They just keep stacking till finally, we are an interactive species as far as we interact with the planet, but we've detached ourselves from that.
Yes.
So losing meditation, living in the moment, not worrying about things in the past that you can't change. Mm-hmm. We're worrying about all these things that just don't matter. And that's why I always tell people, again, focus on your health. You can 100% control that right now. Mm-hmm. Right now. You can change it this moment. So start there. Take the little steps. Learn how to detach. I'm sure like you, when I first was starting on my path, I was listening to talk radio, watching, all the pundits on TV. And I worked within the political system, so I had a little different angle on it.
I'm sure.
But it was slowly driving me nuts. And then you throw in outside influences, people telling you social media, and people, it's just you get bombarded with all this. And I've learned to detach like you. I do not open my computer up after 4 or 5 in the afternoon unless I'm working on a project. But I also work almost every day, but it's based upon my schedule. So it's bits and pieces. I organize my thoughts and live the way I want to live to a point.
You're using your computer like a typewriter in a good way.
I do because I write. And I'll tell you what, there's some authors to this day who still use typewriters.
Yeah. I used one until like 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. They write their manuscripts or handwrite their manuscripts.
And that's because of attention, because all we really have is our attention. And if you wake up every day and every day's a new day, it's not as soon as, an email or a call or a text or a social media message or what have you is coming at you, you don't have your attention anymore and you don't have the ability to create out of a real space, I guess I want to say. Like for me as a trained artist and musician, it's like the 3-hour chunk or something like that is the most precious thing you can have in the world. Like the 3 hours of uninterrupted time. And when I was a kid growing up in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire, it's like I had a lot of those times as a kid. I didn't want them. I wanted more stuff to be going on. I wanted to like go out there and meet girls and see the world. And, after a while, it really changes. Don't you think? And it's important that it does.
Well, you learn that you're meant to focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
This whole multitasking sounds great, and you have to at times. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But in the big picture, the human is actually meant to focus pretty much on a task at a time.
And when they do incredible things.
Move on. And you are so much more productive doing that. I am. I do not. Like, I won't interact when I'm writing. I will not interact in anything else that's going on my computer. I basically am offline.
Yeah.
So I use it for the word processing. And, if an email comes up that I have to answer, I'll jump on it. But sometimes, like I said, I'm not even connected. So I won't even know. Of course, my phone will go off. But it's about prioritizing and learning the task and what's important. And I think that's the biggest thing, too. We're all trying to discover, well, why am I here? What's my purpose? Mm-hmm. And what's important? Well, working myself to death, being overweight, being miserable, well, I've determined that's not what's important.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I think people through, if you can detach a little bit and find yourself, I guess, gosh, it sounds very, sit and, and chant kind of thing. People kind of misconstrue that, but, I meditate.
Yeah.
I calm my mind. I'm a type A. My mind is always on. And I've had to learn to quiet it down, take it easy. Things will get done. And again, prioritize on what's important and what you want to do. And I think you're right. Technology today, it's a threat. And you have to figure out how to properly use it. And I talk to people who are like, I'm on Facebook, and they're on like 3-4 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that's uncommon.
No, and I was realizing this as I was standing in line, which I really don't do that much anymore.
Me neither.
I try not to. But I was in line and I had my phone, and I as I've said before, I don't usually use social media as a consumer. But I fired up Facebook and I'm on my phone, and I'm just like sitting there or standing there in line. And I understand why people are on it so much, because if you're just blowing off time, if you're just kind of like wasting time because someone's wasting your time, then yeah, be on it all day. That's great. It's like more fun than playing a little game or something like that, because, that's my friend, that's my old teacher, and like I can talk about myself. I love talking about myself, right? And
yeah.
Whereas
Again,
before,
ego.
you might like, I guess when I was a kid or a few decades ago, you might stand in a line and be like, oh, I'm actually thinking about something right now. I'm like getting work done in my head, right, around something. Yeah. I'm conceptualizing an idea. I'm, in the same way that when you're in the shower, which I'm sure this isn't far off, it's probably already there. It's like if you could have your phone or technology in the shower, it'd be even better, right? But no. Because you do your best singing in the shower, you do your best relaxation, you get a little bit of me time, right? Like, what if that's good for us? What if we don't need another $1,000 phone with no ports on it? What if we had it just fine when we just like took showers and walked down the street and stood in line without Candy Crush?
Well, and it's, again, that human interaction too. All that makes you, because you'll see people standing in line and no one's interacting anymore.
Or even sitting at the dinner table, they're not.
Oh, I've gone and eaten out at restaurants. I don't do it very often, but I'll sit and I'll watch families because I love.
You're the creepy guy in the corner.
Because I'm an outsider now.
Sure.
Kind of in society, because the way I live a totally different life, and I didn't understand that. I was just living the life I wanted to.
Right.
And that's how the books and everything came about, is people were interested in what I was doing. But I'll watch families interact, and literally I've seen families. Everyone from the 5-year-old on, they have a device in their hand and they're not talking to each other. They're having no interaction. And I remember, when we had dinner at the dinner table, which is very rare today too, as a family, we all sat down, we ate, we talked about what's going on. I have practice tomorrow, Mom, I need a ride, or, none of that happens anymore. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's called social media, which is true irony, because it is anything but social. And you need to focus in, not only that, but we're tribal, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're spreading out into these massive kind of groups where humans were meant to interact in smaller packs, right?
With meaningful
and that's one thing where I've been exactly, because those peripheral relationships are not truly relationships. Especially on Facebook, you got 4,000 friends. No, you don't. No one has 4,000 friends.
Right. Facebook says I do. And then like another many thousand followers on top of that.
Yeah. And for me, I'm very lucky. And I give this example is the friends I grew up with. I have friends that we're literally babysat together.
Wow.
That's how far we go back. And to this day, we interact by phone, email, or in person.
All those things are at least 20 plus years old. All those ways of interaction, if you talk about technology, right?
These are friends almost clicking to 5 decades now.
Wow.
You get to know someone really, really well over that time.
You don't need Facebook for that.
And that's what I mean. I don't need Facebook for that. And Facebook, it's just, and I people ask me, a few followers, well, why are you getting away from social media? And I go, and I did an interview and we talked about it. I went, I don't think, because I write books and I have a business, that any person should have direct pipeline into my life.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair to me. And second of all, you shouldn't be pipelining into my life.
Right.
You should be focusing on your life and what you can do to make your life better. Now, if you have a question, I tell people you have to fill out the form, and it comes out in an email. Mm-hmm. If it's a good question, you've taken the time, I answer all my emails. If you send me something stupid and you don't hear back, that means you sent me something stupid. And I very rarely have to
get some hateful comments about that.
Well, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but my time is valuable.
Yeah.
You know,
of course,
I only have so much time on this earth. I don't know when I die where I go. No one's come back to tell me. So my attitude is I'm going to live every day the best I can, work as hard as I can while still enjoying my life, because that's another thing is people think that you could just – the goal is to get rich, mm-hmm. have all that FU money, and detach.
That's not what
it's
happens.
It's like Jim Carrey just said, who is a very interesting dude.
He is.
Very interesting. But he said, I wish everyone could be rich to find out that that's not the answer.
Yeah.
Rich and famous.
And famous, yeah.
And famous, very famous. Because I agree. I used to think when I was younger, I went, God, I just want to stop working. You're always going to be working at something until the day you die.
Yeah.
You should be. You know, it's just
we can't help ourselves.
We can't. Again, we're curious. We're always reaching. We're always trying to learn something new. And the moment you stop, your life is dead. I mean, honestly, and I see a lot of people today doing that. I have people in my family. I go, what are you doing? You know, this is not living. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, you don't have to live like me. That is not what I'm preaching. But again, find your purpose and pursue it. Get after it. Organize your time. That's another thing is people cannot prioritize.
Right.
They get so distracted, and I see this with people who start their own businesses time and time again. And this is something I'm going to write in an entrepreneur book eventually. And I want to get your perception on this too. Is that if I've always started working very young, and I always treated every job very, I guess, as a priority. Even though I was working for someone else, I almost pretended like it was my business. Mm-hmm. And I took it personally when I did something wrong or screwed something up. That taught me really good habits to start my own business. Now, people who have poor discipline, and a lot of people hate their jobs today, and I've had friends do this. They go, my job sucks. I'm tired of it. I'm going to start my own business. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is those bad habits that you formed while working with someone else transcend right into the entrepreneurship role. Yep. So while you were spending 3 hours on Facebook, screwing around, going and talking in your friend's cubicle, you know, watching YouTube videos, what I watch people do is they start their business and they do the exact same thing in their business that they did for the person they worked for, and their business blows up. It just implodes. And that's one thing. What's your perspective on that? Because I mean, we've all done jobs we don't like.
Yeah. I think it's really different when you're working for yourself, when you take it on as your own thing. Not, like you said, not right away. It takes a little bit for you to realize that, oh, if I don't work today, nothing's getting done.
Exactly.
That's way different than like if you're working in the traditional rat racy thing, like you said, you find yourself just walking over to the cubicles and watching those YouTube videos and stuff because you don't have enough valuable work to do, and you know that you're more valuable than that, and so you want to have some sort of life, and so you want to connect with old friends on Facebook, and you want to connect with your office friends and all of that, but that's kind of like a fake life in a lot of ways, right? Because yes, you can have work friends, but like your real friends are different from your work friends, ideally, right? Like you said, if you've been babysat together and you've known each other for 50 years, you're going to be a lot better friends, hopefully, or know each other a lot better, have a lot more intimate of a relationship than someone who you just kind of have to play nice with because you work together. And another big piece of that too is you have to get a handle of, your health. We've talked about that. If anyone wants to hear us talk for an hour about what exactly you should be eating and how you train. Listen to the past interviews with Gary and check out his blog and mine as well. But so you need to get the health under control. And I really do think you need to get your debt under control, or at least you need to be above the clouds in one way or another. It's not like you need to sell your house. It's that you need to find some way of not believing that money is your God anymore. Because like we're kind of trained and conditioned to believe that money is the only thing that matters. And it's really easy to let it control your life, your relationships, your extended relationships, your family. All of that can be really confusing when money is controlling anyone in the equation, and debt controls people. So if there's any way that you can dial down the debt or live smaller, like you said, it was 400, 500 square feet you were living in. Allison and I did that for about 2 years. We were living in 380 square feet, traveling around as much as we could. And when you do that, it's just like, wow, I wish I could travel around in an RV. I wish I had the money and the time and all of that to do that. It's so much cheaper than a house, too. It's so much cheaper than renting anything. But anyway, that's not for everybody, right? It's not. There are different personality types. There are different, like, I'm someone who, I don't know. I don't like taking on risks, but I like kind of taking on risky different things, if that makes sense. I like exploring them, right? And so you need that seed before you take the dive.
You're like me, controlled. It's controlled. Because people think I fly by the seat of my pants, and I go, you don't see the back end of my plan.
Right.
You only see what I'm doing, but you don't see all the prep and all the thought process that went in behind it. And I try and share that in my books. You know, I wrote my book, Guide to RV Living.
Yeah.
You know,
those are great, by the way. I read I think all of the newest books that you put out. The RV one in particular was really helpful.
Well, and that's what I try and do. And that's where I try and come from, a place of relaying and helping people the lessons that I had to learn. And I share the bad. And that's what people like, is I go, this isn't all puppy dogs and butterflies. This is the real deal. I'm going to tell you how I screwed up.
When the power goes out and it's negative 7 degrees, the wine bottles might explode and you might be cuddling with your dog for dear life.
Yeah, not learning how to use the your black water tank in your RV, you're going to have a problem. And it's going to be a bad one. And you know, it's interesting you talked about health and finances. I wrote a blog post on that. And I said it was titled like the 2 things that are stopping you from living the simple life. Yeah. And I said finances and health. And I dug into the finances. And this is where people, again, the 2 elephants in the room that no one wants to address, right? Yeah. They buy a ton of books on it. They watch a ton of programs on it. And they never change anything, right? So those are the 2 biggest ones we have to deal with. I broke out because today minimum wage, especially I'm in Washington. So in Seattle, I believe it is $15 an hour. And there's other places that it's $15 an hour, if I remember right. But that's right. That's where we're going. We want minimum wage to be basically $15 an hour. So I broke out the math and I said, okay, people, I get a lot of complaints about you're single, you don't have any debt. That's how you can do it. Well, first of all, more people live my lifestyle who are married with kids than single people. That is complete BS. Single people are the anomaly. We are not the majority of people living the lifestyle that I live. Yeah. Secondly, I did the math. So I roughly did 40 years. I said, if you worked only 40 hours a week, made minimum wage for the rest of your life, you would make $1.24 million in your lifetime. Minimum wage, never progressing, never doing anything else. Yeah. Okay, of course we have responsibilities. You got to pay taxes, you got to pay rent, whatever. But think of that. Every individual in this country has the potential to be a millionaire. Yeah. And more than likely a multimillionaire. Right. We don't have an earning problem. We have a spending problem. Absolutely. It's just like the government. The government has more than enough money. But it blows it like a drunken sailor every chance it gets. As a consultant for the government, I can vouch for that. I worked there. You consulted for them. I had to control budgets. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was absolutely ridiculous what goes on. And I don't mean that. And people always take it as, oh, they turn it into this working wage issue, and that I'm beating on the downtrodden and this and that. I go, no, you're missing the point. I'm giving you a example of money. I'm trying to teach you the money lesson that, heck, I had to learn.
Yeah, it wasn't the decision or the trying to make more that ever led us to a place of success or happiness. It was always, are we doing what we want to do? And can we support ourselves? And for the, I don't know, 7 or 8 years that we've been doing this, every single year except for one basically broke even. And I'm totally cool with that. I love that. I think that's great, because that one good year, we were able to put a little bit of money away and we feel okay, even if we broke even for like the rest of our lives. Cool. But if you're working in a job for someone else, then you're worried about losing your job, because as soon as you do, you lose your insurance too. And everyone knows how much, or not everyone, but like a lot of people know that it can get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars if anything goes wrong with your health and you wind up in the hospital. So, man, it's pretty wacky, but most of us need to realize that you can dial it down a little bit. Maybe we don't need 4 cars. Maybe we don't need, 5,000 square feet of house to live in, or 10,000 square feet. I mean, it's absurd, especially once people make a little bit of money or whatever. You see the expenditures that happen. And man, I bought a house that was not expensive. It was like $290 in like $290,000 in 2009, I think it was. And the taxes wound up being over like $10,000 a year a few years later, because they kept jacking it up because it was like close to Austin, and Austin was exploding. But then I'm starting to spend more in taxes than I would have been spending to rent the same place. It's like,
well, and I think that's the problem, is we're not taught in school anymore truly how to manage money.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think we're the same belief that I'm not a poo-poo money guy. Yeah. Money runs the world. That is a fact. So,
but less money can too.
But if you use it wisely, use it to your benefit, you don't have to worry about it nearly as much.
Yeah.
And you can figure out different ways and get creative. And I'm with you. We think that we need all these things. And I have 5 things that I think put people in kind of an indentured kind of servitude kind of place.
Sure.
That starts with, as a young child, not learning how to save, not being taught how money works, then college, marriage, cars, and home ownership. That was 6, but right around there. But those are the things that, we take for granted, we're told that that's life.
Yeah.
Right? We're pre-programmed to say that is life.
And then you want to downsize when you're 60 or 70. Everyone wants to downsize. They can't wait to get rid of their big house and all this stuff. So like, what if we downsized in our 20s, 30s, or 40s, right? Then things start to be a lot more achievable. I can't believe it. We're already more than out of time, but we could talk all day. I'll have to have you back. Before we go, Gary, can you please tell people where to find you?
Absolutely. We didn't get much into that, right? I don't know if all your listeners, probably not many, know my background, but I have a website. It's called thesimplelifenow.com. That's where I do my blog. All my books are for sale. I've lived off the grid now. I started this project over 5 years ago. I've lived in my travel trailer longer than that. So it's about my adventures and my life. And then I have the Optimal Health book. The Simple Life book series is a new series I developed. So that's the direction. Like I said, I'm more of an author now, and the speaking's coming and all that kind of good stuff. So go there. All my books are sold on Amazon. I still have my supplement line. I have actually customers I have from day one who still buy from me. So I can never get rid of those because they trust me. I don't do the supplement line to make money. It's a place for you to go that people realize that, hey, Gary actually knows this stuff pretty good. And it's more of they go, I don't buy anywhere else. They go, I don't trust. And I go, thanks. That's why I have them. So yeah, it's basically, that's the direction. If that makes any sense, it's always evolving.
Yeah, I dig it. Well, if you guys want to break free of the machine and start to create your own life, definitely check out Gary's work. been following and interacting with Gary for years now, and you cover a lot of bases, and not many of them have been covered by conventional wisdom. So for all you folks out there, please check it out.
More's coming. So.
Oh, good. Well, Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, we'll have to have you come back soon.
Oh, thanks a lot, Abel. I really appreciate it.
Hey there, listener. Thanks so much for listening to the very end of this episode. As a special bonus, I'm including a new original song that I made up just for you, live on the spot, as part of my new improv music video series. I hope you like it. You can check out hundreds of these original songs and more for free at abeljames.com. Here we go.
I don't need no breakfast, baby. 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 I don't need no. Baby, I don't need no breakfast now. I don't need no breakfast. I don't need no breakfast now.
This episode is brought to you by Wild Superfoods and listeners like you. Whether you're looking to drop a few pounds, maximize performance for your next competition, or simply stay young and energetic, you need a name you can trust. That's why my wife Allison and I created Wild Superfoods. Our nutraceuticals and cutting-edge health supplements are literally the products we've been taking ourselves daily to upgrade our nutrition and optimize our health for the past 3+ years. And we're extremely excited to say Wild Superfoods is finally ready for you, with much more to come. When you buy from Wild Superfoods, you're supporting a small family business, not a massive faceless corporation. We don't have any investors or stockholders to please, so our priority is you. We want to help you become as healthy as you possibly can be. Also, starting our own family company, it's kind of cool, has made it so we can create these shows for you without outside sponsors clouding our message of health. So if you believe in what we do, please check out Wild Superfoods. We think you'll dig it. And as a listener of Fat Burning Man, you can save over $80 on a one-time purchase or save over $128 when you select the subscribe and save option. Also, you can get free access with subscribe and save to our Fat Burning Tribe coaching and meal planning community. That place is awesome. I'll see you in there. It's usually at least $27 a month. So check out Subscribe and Save from Wild Superfoods if you want to get the tribe for free. We think you'll like it. So all you have to do is head on over to wildsuperfoods.com to order your very own health boosting goodies for a big time discount. One more time, that's wildsuperfoods.com. Thanks again for listening. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Fat Burning Man. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the podcast app, or wherever else you might be listening to or watching this show. Got a second? Please leave me a quick review on iTunes. I always love hearing from you, and if you think someone else might like and benefit from this free show, please take a second to share it with a friend or with a family member. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at FatBurnMan and Facebook by typing in Abel James or Fat Burning Man. Drop me a line anytime. Did you know that I've recorded over 150 episodes of Fat Burning Man, winning 4 awards in independent media and hitting #1 in more than 8 countries? And here's some more good news. You can download and listen to every single episode for free. All you have to do is type in fatburningman.com. I'll give you a second to type it in, fatburningman.com. And you'll get all the show notes in video and audio versions for all the past episodes of Fat Burning Man. Better yet, enter your best email at fatburningman.com, sign up for my newsletter, and I'll even send you a quick start guide to start burning fat right now and a few of our ridiculously tasty recipes as a special thanks for signing up. Once again, just go to fatburningman.com right now, enter your best email to get your free fat burning download straight to your inbox, and make sure that you never miss a show again. This is Abel James signing off. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great week.